Yeah, alright, I've never played Dungeon Keeper. Well, another video, another classic 90s game Mathas hasn't played. I think the gig is up. I can hide my secret plan no more. You've all been conned. From the very beginning, I didn't want to entertain you fools. No. I'm much more nefarious than that. Judge Mathas was a guise, a ruse, a joke to be paraded around as something that it isn't. I don't want to entertain. No, I created this channel so I had an excuse to play the games that I didn't when I was a kid. And now that you know this deep, dark secret of mine, I expect you to watch the video, and hopefully you enjoy it. Dungeon Keeper, where apparently it's good to be bad. But baby, I already know being bad is so good. The intro cutscene does a perfect job of setting the tone for this game. A knight in shining armor riding his horse by a tavern where people are boning, making his way to where all the evil lie and to rid the land of it once and for all. And as he fights the beasts in the den of evil itself, our hero heroically loses his head. R.I.P. Shiny Knight dude, you were probably an alright guy. Dungeon Keeper is like a giant what-if scenario for your typical fantasy tropes. What if the bad guys weren't so inept that they won, and they won often, spreading through the world and destroying everything they touched? And what if you get to play the role of the evil overlord, commanding your minions, building your dungeon, hoarding your treasure, and destroying all those who oppose you? Each level you'll be presented with a scenario, from heroes bursting into your dungeon trying to stop you, to other rival keepers that need to be evicted so you can take over their part of the world. This simple premise is the heart and soul of Dungeon Keeper. It's an incredibly simple premise, but one that is compelling and to this day hasn't really been explored all that often. So, is it good to be bad? Short answer? Yes. Long answer? Dungeon Keeper holds true to its simple premise with simple gameplay. You'll be dropped into a level where you'll be tasked with two things: build your dungeon and remove the threat of that level. Sometimes that threat is a bunch of do-gooder heroes trying to rout you from their lands. Sometimes it's rival keepers that need some good old-fashioned evicting so you can take over. And sometimes it's both, and they're fighting each other. And since you're an opportunist, you see this as the perfect time to strike, killing two birds with one stone and removing them both. Each level you'll start with a dungeon heart, which will act as your health meter. If this thing dies, it's simple, you lose. You also start with a handful of imps running around the place. They're your grunt workers. You'll task them with digging out nearby areas so you can expand your dungeon, have them mine gold, and eventually start claiming enemy dungeons by doing an adorable little dance. And from here, it's up to you to do as you see fit with what's given to you. Initially, I was a little thrown off. The game looks very similar to a real-time strategy game, but in actuality, you have very little direct control over what's going on in your dungeon. In fact, the only control you really have is commanding what areas of the map you want mined out and what you want to do with these newly created empty spaces to become in your dungeon. There's no drag and drop commands or multi-unit selection per se. Your imps will just do the task that's closest to them. The most direct control you'll have is by picking up your minion with your big ol' evil hand, watch them helplessly dangle, which is also adorable, and dropping them near the thing you want done and hope that they decide to do it. And for the most part, they do. But Dungeon Keeper is more about the bigger picture, creating a massive dungeon of evil and spreading to every corner of the map and taking what's yours. The minutia of commanding your minions is not this game's priority, and you should really know that going in. So if Dungeon Keeper is about building a big old dungeon and hoarding treasure, but you don't have direct control over your minions, then Where's the difficulty? How is this game going to challenge me if I don't have direct control over my own evil army? And trust me, I thought those very questions as I began the game. But it's very quickly answered by Dungeon Keeper. As I said, it's all about the bigger picture. Now that you're free from the shackles of commanding your army directly, you're more concerned about building, organizing, and maintaining. Dungeon Keeper is less an RTS and more of a god game with management aspects. You're trying to create a well-oiled machine of evil, something that can operate on its own if left to its own devices. The best way I can think to describe this is to talk about the opening moments of each level and how the game naturally leads you into its more complicated aspects. Each level starts very simple. You have imps, there's some gold nearby, and a portal, which is where your minions will come from on their own as you attract them. Naturally, you'll command your imps to mine some of that sweet dollar bill while you take what early space you have given to you and turn it into a treasure room where you can hoard all that gold. Now that you've began mining, you'll have some new space to play with, and your minions need a place to sleep, so you'll turn that into a lair so your minions can nap when they want to. But bad dudes need to eat too, right? Right, so mine out another area and turn it into a hatchery, so little baby chickens can hatch and your evil monsters can eat them right on up in front of their family, horrifying the other chickens. You monster. Now you've got 3 rooms, all with their own purpose, and your minions will start to arrive through the portal on their own now that you have some of the basics. Typically at the start, just flies and beetles will begin to show up. But hey, every evil dude needs to start somewhere, and your monsters all have a level, starting at 1 and maxing out at 10. And how do they level? They need to train. So you mine out a new area and build a horrendously dangerous room for them to train in. You pick them up, you drop them in, and have them start training to be a better beetle or fly. Welcome to the Judge Mathas Dangerous Dungeon Training Room. Trying to flap them wings that can't get off the ground. Well, don't you worry. We'll have you jumping over spiked pits where if you don't flap them wings, you die. And if you do happen to survive all of the things that we provide, you'll get sent to the front lines of the Judge Mathas Dungeon Army to fight for his pride and his honor. Sign up today, only $9.99 a month. Want something better than a beetle or a fly? Then you need better rooms to attract them. You might say you're the biggest, baddest dude around, but evil minions don't volunteer themselves. They want money, and they want luxuries. Build a library, and you'll attract warlocks who will start to research new spells and new rooms for you to build. Want dragons? Then you'll need a huge treasury with lots of gold, because dragons love gold. Skeletons? Build a prison, capture enemies, and instead of killing them, starve them to death and have their skeletons join your army. The more minions you'll have, the more rooms you'll need, and the bigger your lair will become. The more rooms, the more space you'll need, so you'll dig out into the map and naturally expand more and more. Of course, the more minions you have, the more gold you'll need, as every so often there's a payday, and each minion will head to the treasury room and grab what they're owed for working for you, and training them isn't free either. So you'll constantly need to be expanding and mining while setting up a dungeon that works and flows flawlessly behind the scenes. All the while, each minion has a very distinct personality that needs to be attended to. Flies and spiders, for instance, don't get along and will always try and end up murdering one another. Warlocks love research, but once they're out of things to research, they get dangerous when they're bored. And if they misbehave, you can send them off to your torture chambers with the mistresses. These gals, right here, yeah, they're kinky. Kinky little shits who love some good old-fashioned BDSM. Where do I sign up, by the way? And while everything I just said may sound overwhelming and a lot to manage, I have to give it to Dungeon Keeper. They're genius in the way they allow you to slowly learn the building blocks of the game. It's so fulfilling after building an incredibly elaborate dungeon to, at the end of the level, scroll back and just see the machine of madness that now operates under your control. It is satisfying like other games just aren't. There's so much to unpack, so much to toy around with, like lightning spells to help destroy your enemies, or directly possessing one of your minions and being able to explore your handcrafted dungeon in first person. Dungeon Keeper is constantly guiding you and giving you new toys to play with that every level challenges you to beat it in a new and creative way. And guiding is the perfect way to describe how Dungeon Keeper teaches you as well. While modern games like to handhold to a ludicrous degree, Dungeon Keeper guides. A perfect example of how it's done is the map for each level. The entire map is shrouded in a fog of war with one major exception: where the gold in the level is. The gold is tantalizing you throughout the entire level, indicating where you can not only get more money, but where some secrets may be hidden. The way the gold is laid across each level is begging for the players to explore, prod, and toy with its design. The way it's arranged and how it's laid around the map sometimes even provides a natural path where you can expand your ever dangerous and expensive dungeon. Or you can just tunnel directly to where you think the goodies are being hidden. But be careful, as sometimes those goodies are guarded by some nasty things. And by no means do you even need to go anywhere near some of these things either. You could easily adapt a strategy of rushing your enemy down as fast as you can. But I think the game is best played with patience and exploration. So yeah, I fucking love this game. I plan on going back and doing the deeper dungeon expansion pack in my spare time very shortly. But there's no such thing as a perfect game, and let's talk about some of the annoyances you'll be dealing with if you do decide to play this game nowadays. Most obvious is the visuals. This game is ugly. And what you're seeing is the high-res version of the game. This shit is just hideous on its intended resolution. It's not as ugly as it could be since it has a very distinct warped look about it, with the walls and rooms all having a very angled architecture giving it some personality, but damn! This took me some time to adjust to. Also, the AI is really stupid, which can get infuriating since you can't directly command your minions. You do have a spell that is supposed to rally your minions to a certain destination, but I'll be damned if that thing ever worked the way it was meant to. I swear my minions were rebellious little teenage shits, and if I could, I'd hear them shouting at me. "It's not a phase, Mom! I do what I want! Resist the power, man! Resist the power!" I found the easiest thing to do was just to mine into the enemy base and have my imp take control of a nearby tile so that I could just pick up all my monsters and drop them in nearby and have them collide head to head with the enemies, forcing them into fight for their damn lives. Now you got no choice, you little assholes. And finally, while I realize this game isn't a strategy game per se, the combat is probably the weakest aspect of the game, usually boiling down to who has more minions than the other one. The giant clashes of armies is messy and hard to tell who's winning, all while the narrator is constantly shouting in your ear.
Your minions are winning the battle.
You'll be watching from above as a blurred mess of things clash with one another until either your color or the enemy's color ends up being the only ones left, and then you push into their dungeon and win. It's a little too simple, and maybe in the sequel they ironed it out, but it definitely felt lacking here.
Your creatures are attacking the enemy.
Yes, I know!
There is nothing
But honestly, pointing out the negatives of this game feels nitpicky. Even today, 20 damn years after its launch, I found myself in love with Dungeon Keeper, and I'm surprised it never got more than 2 games. It's absolutely a masterpiece that deserves to be played. It might take a little bit to get up and running on modern machines, but I promise you it's absolutely worth the hassle. And with the deeper dungeons expansion and a ton of fan-made ones, there's an absolute shitload of dungeon keeping awaiting you. Huh? There was a third game? What? Where? Shit, I want to play that!
creates the ultimate dungeon. Amass an army of minions.
Most games that I do videos on in this channel, I usually end up pleasantly surprised with. There are the occasional pieces of trash, but Dungeon Keeper is more than that. I clearly see why this game is regarded as a masterpiece. I truly fell in love and became obsessed with this game for a week as I just put every ounce of free time I had into this. And I went out of my way to find not only an original box copy with all of the stuff inside of it, but the sequel as well, just so I can have it as part of my collection. This game is magnificent. It is a classic through and through that all you strategy game fans, simulation fans, and management game fans have to play. No question. Go download it right now. It's like $6 on GOG. It is so worth it. And I'm serious when I say I can't wait to play the Deeper Dungeons expansion pack. For me, it's super rare to find a game that I would consider a masterpiece. There are great games out there. So many games that I have loved, some great, some maybe not so great, but are guilty pleasures. But rarely do I come across a game that I consider a masterpiece. So my question to you is, what game do you consider a masterpiece? Timeless, a game you could play 20 years from now and still adore as much as you did when the game initially came out. I feel those games are few and far between, but when you find one, you truly recognize it for what it is. So yeah, I'm jerking off Dungeon Keeper, right? Allow me my space. I'm allowed to do what I want to do with my life. It's my life. So I, the Honorable Judge Mathas, judge this game as guilty. Guilty of hooking me 100%. Making my life nothing but Dungeon Keeper when I had the time. And for that, it deserves a life sentence. A life sentence of being on my computer. So sure, I wasn't a PC gamer growing up. I didn't have a PC to play with for a long time, but if that means I get to go back and play these masterpieces today with this critical lens and still appreciate and love these games for what they were and are, then sign me up, man. I'm willing to dive into that pile of games I never touched. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Judge Mathas. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're gonna be at PAX South, I will be too. So if you see me, say hello. Don't be shy. I always love meeting up with people at these conventions and just hanging out and saying hello. I will be back in a couple of weeks with another new video. I appreciate you guys so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Oh, you're still here. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, hit that subscribe button. And if you're already a subscriber, hit that bell button. If you've already done both, hit that like button, because YouTube has a fetish for buttons. And if you want to watch another Judge Mathas, well, here's a link. Check it out. I'll see you next time.